Alicia from Clare Obscure Expedition 33 is packed with emotion, and I'm going to show you why and how so you can use what we learned here to write your own music. Now, there's many different parts of this piece of music that contribute to the overall emotional impact. Two that we're going to look at here today is the harmony and the melody. When we look at the harmony, we're in the key of C minor, and we're in the time signature of 6/8. And what we can see is we have this kind of like intro section where it's just in C minor. It's on the 1. Then what happens is the first thing we hear out of the gate is 4 to flat 7 to flat 3, which creates a 2-5-1 to flat 3. Now, this right here already sets us up for an unexpected and potent, powerful emotion that kind of sets you off of where you think we might be going and brings you somewhere totally different. Why? Well, because we start off in the key of C minor, but here we're actually hitting the relative major, E flat major, and doing a 2-5-1, which creates a movement from the subdominant, dominant to tonic area, thinking of flat 3 as being the tonic area in this case. Now, the subdominant, dominant tonic form, we're going to see this a couple times in this piece of music, so I'm going to give you a quick explanation on it now, and if you already know what it is, I'm going to remind you. So subdominant is going to be light tension. Dominant is going to be the height of tension in the music, and then the tonic area is going to be resolution. So we have a little bit of tension that starts here, tension increases, and then the tension resolves in the tonic area. So we're going to color code these. You'll see subdominant, I'll do yellow. Dominant, I'm going to do red. And then tonic, I'm going to do green. And this way of thinking about music, this framework, you can find in everything from Beethoven to music theater. And indeed here in video game music as well. So we have this 2-5-1 movement, but it's not to the 1. And so because we have this 2-5 movement that's not to the 1, that brings us somewhere else. It gives us a different frame of reference. It gives us a different emotional color of the music. Then it does go to the 1 here, but it does so briefly before it then does a secondary dominant. It does the 5/4, which then brings us to 4. And again, we see a subdominant to dominant movement from 4 to the 5, sus4 to 3. And we're always going to show the relationship from the subdominant to the dominant with that little bracket right there. And then if the dominant resolves to the tonic within the same phrase, we'll show it with a little arrow like that. So here we can see, subdominant to dominant here from 4 to 5, which then indeed does go to 1. We say, yes, we know where we are. We're now back in C minor, but not so fast. We then go to the flat 7 as the last chord in this group of chords, and this flat 7 is actually acting like the 5/3. So I'm actually going to call this a secondary dominant again. So again, we're emotionally confusing you. We're emotionally keeping you on your toes, not letting you sit or rest or decide exactly where you are. You don't really know where you stand because we have this 5 of flat 3. We're like, wait, we just heard C minor, but now we've got this dominant feeling again here. We have the height of tension, musically speaking, that's leading us to a resolution that's not the C. So we resolve here to flat 3, and then flat 3 goes to flat 6, and right here, this flat 6 doesn't even sound like flat 6. This flat 6 actually rather sounds like it's the 4 of flat 3. We so feel like we're in the world of flat 3 at this point that this right here, it's going to be an A flat major 7, actually sounds like it's the 4 of E flat instead of the flat 6 of C minor. So that again is going to create so much emotional nuance that it keeps you on your toes and keeps you not knowing quite where you sit, which then creates more emotion. If you think about it, if you sit on your couch and play a video game you've already played 200 times, you might have the emotion of enjoyment, but it's nowhere near the type of emotion you experience the first time you play the game. And the reason for that is you're not prepared for what happens in the game. In the same way, the composer here is actually keeping us on our toes. We're not prepared for what's going to happen next, and that's part of what gives you more emotion. Oh, what happens here is really cool. So we have flat 6, then we have like a 7 diminished of flat 7 to flat 7 to 7. So that is a pretty cool chord progression. It sounds something like this. We have the flat 6 major 7, to then 7 of flat 7, which then leads us to flat 7, and then we go to 7 fully diminished 7, And so what that's doing is that's actually creating this little bass line with the lowest notes. We have an A flat here as the lowest note. Then we have an A note here as the lowest note. Then we have a B flat here as the lowest note, and then B note here. So it's going A flat, A, B flat, B. It's going up by half step every single time. And because it's going from low to high, that increases tension. Now, in addition to that ascending bass line increasing and creating tension, the use of the 7 diminished chord here and here, in this case the 7 of flat 7, and here just the 7 of C, these also serve the dominant area. Notice I'm coloring them in red. They create a whole lot of tension. In fact, if I just play this chord isolated for you with nothing else going on, that doesn't sound like sunshine and rainbows the same way this chord might. That sounds like maybe sunshine and rainbows. But this chord right here, ooh, something seems to be a little bit wrong, or there's something threatening, something bad's got to happen. There's some type of tension is the point that I'm trying to make here. So we have this tension leads to tension. And because this phrase ends on tension, we're going to call this a half cadence because it ends on tension. The tension goes unresolved. And indeed, when we look at the melody in a couple moments, you're going to see that it actually mirrors the movement of the chords in the melody. Now here's what happens. At this point, we go to the next section. This is going to be called the B section. In the B section, I'm going to say we're now in the time signature of 2/4, no longer 6/8. So what's the difference? All right, so in 6/8, there are 2 beats per measure. Each beat is a dotted quarter note, and each beat is divided into 3 equal parts in 6/8. So we would call this compound duple meter. Duple because 2, right? 1, 2. And then compound means we take number 1, we divide it into 3 parts. We take number 2, divide it into 3 equal parts. Contrast this to 2/4. 2/4 is also duple, but it's not duple compound, it's duple simple meter. Duple, again, because there's 2. Simple, because it's divided into 2 equal parts instead of 3 equal parts. So now we go into 2/4. And again, same key, C minor. So we have 1, we go to flat 7 in first inversion, to flat 3, to flat 6. That sounds like this. Which is really pretty, by the way. But the fact that it ends on that flat 6 kind of feels like it's the 4 of 3. Again, the reason is because we heard these 2 5/1s to 3, and we heard the B flat, the flat 7 bring us back to 3. So our ear is a little confused as to where we are. That's keeping us on our toes a little bit. And this actually sounds like it's the 4 of flat 3 here. All right, then we go to 4 minor to 1, and then we have a 2/5. So that's going to leave us on another half cadence. Remember, when we end with tension, so we're going subdominant here to dominant. When we end on a dominant, that's leaving tension unresolved. That's going to be a half cadence. This is what it sounds like. Dun, 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 da, da, dun, da, da. And this makes us feel like we're back in C minor. Why? Because we get the 4. Notice the 4 is colored yellow. That's a subdominant area chord. So we have subdominant, tonic, subdominant, dominant. So all of this right here is very clearly in C minor. Now, here's where we really start to decide and know what key we're in. It's this last 8 measures of this piece of music. So, now here it does not go to flat 6. In fact, it goes to 7. Fully diminished, maybe 7 fully diminished, or maybe just 7 diminished. Now here, straight fastball down the middle. We're only going to one place. Subdominant. Dun, 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 down. Back to the 1. And so there's this meta level of tension. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. There's this meta level of tension where it's like, we know we're in C minor because we hear the key so clearly established here at the top. And we see the C minor pop up again, here, but it's only 2 times in the A section that we actually even hear a C minor after this intro part. And so we get to this B section, and again, there's this flirtatiousness about, is it in E flat major? Is it in C minor? Which, by the way, you can also hear in, for example, Weight of the World in Near Automata. It like starts in minor, it kind of goes to major in the chorus, and then comes back to minor. And then here at the very end, it finally wraps up where we go big tension at the end of this line leads to big resolution at the end of this line. So much going on here, and before I move on to talk about the melody, I want to make sure you understand that chord progressions are not protected by copyright. So you could actually take everything we talked about here, you could copy this exact chord progression, you can take a screenshot of this right now, and you can actually go in any key, use this chord progression in this exact same order and sequence at the exact same speed to create your own piece of music. So that's a little word to the wise there. Now, let's talk about the melody, because the melody is just so cool, and the melody also creates unexpected patterns that lead to feelings of expectation and of heightened emotion and heightened stakes. There's some type of drama, some type of conflict, someone's hot and cold, they're yes, they're no, there's some type of dynamic like this going on with this character. Looking at our melody here, we can see a couple of interesting things. Like we just established talking about the chords, there's two main sections. There's an A section here, which you see FA, that's F for form A, and then form B, which we can see here has this green line, and form B extends from measure 19 all the way down to measure 34. Like we talked about before, there's a metric modulation where we move from 6/8 to 2/4, and I chose to think about it this way because really for me, all of the instruments, once we get to the B section, sound like they're in 2/4. We have subphrase A, which sounds like this. So pretty, but also we don't hear this again in terms of the form. Like it's a one-off at the level of form. We do hear it repeated in the actual piece of music itself. Now, here's where we get to what I would call the main motif or the main gesture of this piece of music here in measure 9. Check this out. Now, right there, that sort of felt like a full idea, but it doesn't end here. And what's interesting here too is even though we have a C note here, we're in the key of C minor, because of the way that this melody is structured, it does a 2 to a 1, driving us towards this E flat here. At the melody, it's playing with us too. In the melody, it feels like we're in E flat. When we hear the C, it doesn't even register or feel like it is the tonic. It doesn't feel like it belongs to the key of C. It sounds like it's scale degree 6 in the key of E flat. Now, right here, this is the height of tension. And indeed, if you're wondering where we are with the chords, we are right here. This big half cadence right here. And we can see that, sure enough, the notes that are being used here, we have D, which is scale degree 2. I'm going to call that an adventure tone relative to the key of C minor. To scale degree flat 3, which is a home tone. It does belong to that key triad of the chord that's built off the tonic C minor. Then we come back to here again, scale degree 2, leaving tension. Scale degree 2, you've heard so many times, scale degree 2 resolved to scale degree 1 or scale degree 3. It naturally feels like tension to you. Your ears have been trained to it. It's how a lot of music culture works, is scale degree 2 holds tension in it. So we can see here it ends on tension. But here's the thing, it's not just about the scale degree that's creating the tension. It's also in the way that the subphrases are structured. We can see we got subphrase B here. And I'm thinking of subphrase B as being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures long. And if you're wondering, you don't know too much about music, that's relatively uncommon. A lot of times we're going to see 4 measure phrases. Like we can see here, this is 4 measures. It starts a little early, it ends a little early, but basically 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it ends a little early and starts a little early, but it basically takes up 4 measures. And indeed, if we look in the B section here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, measure subphrase, 1, 2, 3, 4, measure subphrase, a 4 measure subphrase, and a 4 measure subphrase. So by and large, 4 measure subphrases are common. And what's happening here is there's this it doesn't quite feel like it comes to rest here. And it feels like it's going to E flat. So that feeling of uncertainty, in the same way your first time playing through a game, your first time facing a boss, this heightened sense of you're unsure of what's going on, you have more emotion, that's what's happening here in the music. It's keeping you on your toes. It's doing unexpected things. It's breaking a presumed expected pattern that your brain has based on all the music you've listened to your whole life. Then we come here and we have a repeat of this main gesture here, right? This ascending idea here, ascending arpeggiation, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, to an extended longer note. So again here, arpeggiation, extended longer note, but this time it is essentially 4 measures long, which is kind of like when we heard the C minor here, it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely C minor here. There's definitely C minor here. It doesn't give us resolution the same way it does here at the very end, where it really brings us home. So in the same way, because we had these 6 measure subphrase here, this 4 measure subphrase doesn't give us any type of resolution. In fact, it serves to actually heighten the tension because we really don't know what's going on because we just had a 6 measure subphrase right before it. So what do I mean by this main idea in this arpeggiation? Well, if we look at the notes that are present here, we've got an A flat, C, F, A flat, C. That's arpeggiating an F minor chord, and we could think about it being as an F minor chord in first inversion. It's starting on the A flat. If I were to play all these notes at the same time for you, it would sound something like this. There you go. So what we're asking ourselves is, okay, we know these notes are separated out over time, but if we play all of them together at the same time, what sound do they make? And it's that sound. So it's going to be that F minor sound if we combine them all together. And then if we look at what happens here in measure 15, the arpeggiation we have is actually going to be a C, E flat, G, C, E flat, which is an arpeggiation of C minor, which then establishes our ear for the melody of, okay, right, we just heard a C minor. That gives credence and believability to the tension that comes right after this D to E flat to D. Now, before we talk about the B section of the melody, I want to point one thing out, is I'm not talking about the way that the ensemble of musicians here played with time to create even more tension and resolution in the music. And when I say play with time, I mean there's points in this piece of music where it slows down and then it speeds back up, and it slows down and it speeds back up. So it's yada, shada, and that pause, yada, shada, that right there does contribute a lot to the emotion and the variability of what's going on in the music. Looking at what we have here at the subphrase level, we've got subphrase A prime, subphrase A double prime, then subphrase B. So why am I calling this subphrase A prime, and then A double prime? It's because we have the same exact rhythm in subphrase A as in subphrase A prime as in subphrase A double prime. It's literally the same exact rhythm, different notes, and in some cases, almost the same exact notes. And then subphrase B does start off the same, but it ends quite differently, so I'm going to say it's a totally different creature. And what's cool about this is that in this B section, there really is more resolution that's being handed to us in this B section. So at the subphrase level, there's these 4 measure subphrases. And these 4 measure subphrases of AAAB create an AAAB framework. And an AAAB framework is a classic framework you've heard so many times, not just in melodies, but also in lyrics, in songs. It's used everywhere. So you're actually receiving this music in a format that your brain knows and is actually familiar to your brain. And that right there at the level of what am I expecting or not expecting creates resolution. Let's take a look at what's happening here in the notes. We still have this idea of an arpeggiation leading to an extended note that we were talking about here as being sort of like the main idea if I was going to point to one motif for us to talk about, it would be the motif idea of arpeggiation, long note. So here again we have arpeggiation. This is like a C minor in second inversion, starting on a G, then hanging out on the D, and then having these triplets. Now the way the singer sings these triplets is not a straight down the middle triplet. They're kind of pulling back on the timing of the triplets, which creates a really interesting push-pull dynamic in the music. Let's listen and compare. Whereas when we listen to the way the software replicates it, it's very mechanical and precise the way the software does it. The way the singers do it, she's pushing and pulling. It's really delicious. So we have this C minor landing on scale degree 2, going to 5, to flat 7, to 1. But this C here, because it has the A flat underneath it, it doesn't actually sound like it belongs to the C minor chord. This G and this B flat, by the way, are going to be the 3rd and the 5th of the E flat chord we heard right over here. And then we have the A, which is the 3rd of the A flat. And then here to change it up, the arpeggiation, we're going to F minor. So we literally have FAC, that's an F minor arpeggio root position. Going to C, interesting, leading tone being scale degree 7 as opposed to the subtonic, which can be scale degree flat 7. Then 2, 1, again leading tone. This is creating a lot of tension. Then we have almost an exact replica of the first 4 measures of the B section here, except this time instead of ending on C, it ends on the leading tone, even more tension. So it's like tension here, even more tension here, and then let's listen to the last 4. Finally, at the level of the melody and the level of the harmony, brings everything back home to create a sense and a feeling of resolution, which finally, after this emotional journey we've been through every single step of the way, gives us some resolution, gives us a feeling of, we made it. And that's part of what makes this journey and this piece of music, Alicia, such an incredible emotional ride. If you'd like to understand a little bit more about the music theory, like what the Roman numerals were, like what is a tonic, what is a subdominant, what is scale degree 7, what does all this mean, I've created a free course just for you, and you can check it out up here. My gamer clients have used this same course, this same information to make music that they thought was so good, they put it out on YouTube Music and Spotify Music and Apple Music. So I think this will help you out. Check this right up here if you want to learn a little bit more about how music works. Click right there. There you go, right there.